I'd like to welcome everyone to the December 16th, 2020 EEAC meeting, the Energy and Environmental Advisory Committee. And it is officially 4:10 and that we're underway. I'd like to just reflect that we have all but two members with us. One will join us very shortly, coming from another meeting, and then Mark Valentine is off today, and but the rest of the board and the committee is here. So today, today's meeting really is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is to begin our discussion as it relates to the CCA RFPs. And so this meeting is being recorded, and then will be shown in approximately 24 to 48 hours out, so folks will be able to watch in. This evening, the board will be not taking any official actions unless it's to request some additional information, but the board is not going to be taking any formal applications. I would first like to say thank you to Jewel and GoodEnergy, who were the two that submitted RFPs. Some very detailed RFPs that we have before us, and a lot of great information. So I want to thank both of those organizations. The second thing that I want to mention is that these are of confidential nature, and I would ask our committee to make sure that none of this information is sent out or leaked out. We're not looking to advantage or disadvantage either one of these companies as we go through this process. I will say that I have asked that we go back to both of these companies and ask for a redacted set of copies, electronic version of any business confidential items, so that we can put that up on the website. But again, because of some of the confidential information that each company has put in here for their strategies, we don't want to advantage or disadvantage either one of the organizations. So we'll look as soon as we get those redacted versions, and we want them to redact so that they're the ones that know it the best. We don't want to go through and think we got everything and miss something. I would prefer to have those respective companies do that. But again, it is confidential in nature, and I would just ask that our committee for now just be sensitive to any of the confidential information that's so noted in these overall. If any questions come up or we receive any questions or comments, we will respond back to both Jewel and GoodEnergy on those, so that as anybody is watching this and as we get into this, this will not be our only meeting. I sense that we'll have several meetings even before we're ready to provide information to the town board, because when we do that, we want to make sure that we've provided at least a balanced overview back to the board for their review at an upcoming work session, and then ultimately a legislative session overall. I think it's important just to indicate that this committee is an advisory committee. We're going to be looking to provide factual information to the board. We're not decision makers, and it'll be the board that'll be making, the town board that'll be making the final decision. And again, we'll provide factual information back to the board and answer any questions that they may have overall. I see us at some point putting together some type of a comparison format and or matrix, so that we give that to the board for their review consideration. And then I see some of us or all of us giving at least the board an overview at some point. And then today, before we go, we'll talk a little bit about next meetings, when we should schedule some next meetings as we go through. And then I have put together a draft schedule of how I see this unfolding. And I want to just underscore the fact that it is draft, and I'm going to welcome input from the committee as to their thoughts. And so this is kind of a, here we are today on the 16th of December, and where do we see ourselves with getting information, to the town board, and the town board looking to take some action. So we'll talk about that at the end. So with that, hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to at least glance through these documents here over the last couple of weeks that came in on the 20th. I know that each time I open the book and start to look in some of it, there's a lot of great information, and once again I thank both Jewel and GoodEnergy for their documentation and everything like that. I know that Sarah and Mark Valentine have done a lot of review on these documents as well, and Sarah was kind of our sponsor who pulled together 3 different RFPs from different organizations that helped us kind of shape ours, and then with the input from the committee provided some valuable information before we sent that out. So with that, I might recognize Sarah at this point if she has any initial thoughts or comments that she might like to share, because I don't want to say that she's been the only one that has reviewed it page for page multiple times, but she probably has spent the most time overall. So Sarah, if you would like to make some general comments, would welcome those.
Sure. So I kind of came today with a document that I made up of things that stood out from both of the proposals that we received. Is there a preference that we start with one or the other?
Nope. Whatever you happen to have in front of you, we'll go. I've got them both here, so.
Great. Then I'll start with Jewel, and if anyone would like to go through the proposal, we can, whether that's in specific sections or however you'd like to do that. But I can kind of present my main items to start.
All right, and then we can ask any questions, and then obviously we can, get into any other questions or comments that the committee has. So, thank you.
So starting, kind of one of the big standouts with Jewel at this point, they do offer in some areas an opt-out solar program, which would be a community distributed generation program. That's the phrase that's used in general rather than community solar, because that can be an opt-out or an opt-in program. In New York currently, there is not unified billing, so as a requirement across New York State. So some energy entities, so like NYSEG or similar, have that unified billing, so an opt-out program is currently available. If you have an administrator that can do that opt-out program approved by the Public Service Commission, that's something that Jewel offers. RG&E currently does not have unified billing. In the year 2021, there will be, it's expected that there will be a requirement for unified billing across all of these energy distributors. I'm sorry, I'm mixing them up. So that is a benefit to have that opt-out. Currently, it's not going to change much for us, but in the long run, it can. And that's something that the town... How can it change? So once there's unified billing, then we can choose to have a program similar to CCA, which would be CDG, because Community Distributed Generation, and it can be an opt-out program, just like CCA is what we're going after. You can, again, also have an opt-in program, but obviously if you're having an opt-in program, you're less likely to get as many people to join in compared to an opt-out where people have to take action to not participate.
Right.
So that's the difference between an opt-out and an opt-in?
Yes, and that can be applied to community distributed generation.
So unified billing is the key.
It is.
That's the mechanism that allows you to opt out.
Yes, and that is done by energy territory, so like RG&E, NYSEG, no, Niagara Mohawk, those types of entities would need to have that unified billing.
And it's coming, PSC is looking at it there's an expectation in 2021 that should all even out?
That's the
It's-
expectation. Currently,
law.
the date is 2021. There's not a definitive, it has to be done by this time, like by November 12th. It's not that kind of thing. It's 2021. There is an expectation that it will be April, I believe I was told. But again, that's, with everything going on right now, I don't know if it's reasonable for us to have that expectation. Between things last year, well, this year changing with COVID, and then of course we have an ideal expectation with the vaccine that things will be back to our normal. I don't think it's reasonable for us as a committee. I don't think it's currently reasonable for the town board to expect April 2021 as the date
Sure.
when that isn't even a date set by the Public Service Commission right now. It's just 2021 is the
So if I
year.
recall, and a few of you, I think, were part of that conversation, we had RG&E in. So that would have been the end of last year. So I apologize as I reflect back, and COVID kind of has got everybody just a half a step off. But I think it was in December of 19, we invited RG&E to come in. And they did talk a little bit and have a slide about that. Basically, they did indicate, if I recall correctly, that it was in 2021. They were working towards that. Did not give a definitive date that it was going to be first quarter, second quarter, or so on. But they in fact were planning and are working towards doing that in 21. So
that is a highlight of Jewel that isn't currently approved for other administrators by the Public Service Commission. That's not to say that other people can't go after it. That'd be great, always keep a competitive market. However, currently it's just Jewel, so that's a standout highlight.
okay.
We, in this committee, haven't discussed a lot about community solar at this point, as the last time the discussion came up, I'm pretty sure we said we wanted to focus on CCA. However, I'm a staff member, that's up to the committee to make a decision to move forward on, or the town board.
Okay.
So,
Yep. So we'll put the facts out there, and then,
Yes.
we'll continue to work direction. So,
Yep.
okay. All right.
Another standout between GoodEnergy and Jewel is that both companies claim starting up Westchester Power. That was a standout thing as maybe we should look for more information on this, how they participated. Was one of them an administrator, was one of them not? Westchester Power currently is their own administrator. They don't have Jewel or GoodEnergy or Mega or anyone else. And looks like it's because they are doing a lot more than just CCA or community solar. So it doesn't seem like Westchester is shying away from either of these administrators because they're not good. It looks like they're just looking to do more. In Jewel, there are employees, including the CEO, that helped start Westchester. It's clear he was on one of the boards, and that seems like it's a productive measure or a highlight. And that you can see both in the resumes that are in the document, as well as in, I want to say there's a reference section that has that kind of information too.
Yep. Okay.
What is the significance of Westchester? Is it just
Westchester was the essentially flagship for New York State, which is likely why they're both pointing it out. Also, it's kind of the part of New York State that's leading edge on sustainability in New York. So like I said, they're not just doing solar and CCA, they're also trying to stay away from plastics. They're also they're going above and beyond what the vast majority of New York State is doing. And even above the New York State expectations for 2035. Westchester is
They're the California of New York.
kind of, yeah. So that's probably why both of them are trying to show their history with that. And
Yep.
that's a little less fact-based, that's more my opinion when I say that's probably why. Then also, let's see, Joule is different from GoodEnergy in that they have a local program manager. That's where Raptricity would come in. When going through the proposal, you'll note that Raptricity is on the top of almost every page as part of the header. That's because that Joule's, their general practice appears to be that they have a local program manager for each of their groups, community groups. So whether that's Lima and I think the city of Canandaigua, is that accurate?
It is the city of Canandaigua,
So
that
the
is
city of
correct.
Canandaigua currently is working with Joule, and theirs, I believe, is also through Raptricity. And I can double check that within the book, but
It was interesting. I was a little bit late today because as I was leaving my office, I was stopped by one of my partners who's on Brighton Rotary, Matt Rich's wife. And we got into a discussion where I was going, and Rochester just presented to Brighton Rotary. And so she knew what I was talking about. And so I said, oh, Joule. And she said Joule, she doesn't recall Joule ever coming up. The whole entire presentation was about Rochtricity.
Oh, wow.
and that makes sense.
I mean,
because-
yes, if they're the local face.
And reading through Joule's proposal, the role of Raptricity is, the majority is, it's all outreach. It's all the public communication. So if you, as a resident, had a question about the CCA program, the ideal would not be you calling the town hall, it would be you calling Raptricity between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. on a weekday. And that's different than GoodEnergy, where if you are a resident and you have a question about the CCA, you would do one of two things. You'd either call GoodEnergy, which they have a call center. It appears to be in New York State, but it's not limited to those business hours. Or you would call the ESCO or whatever group we eventually would choose to bid on our energy, like whichever group got chosen after bidding on our energy, and they would be dealing with a potential problem you might have. That is the standard across the board. In every state, the standard is if you have a question for the CCA pertaining to your energy, so where does this tiny bit of electricity come from? You call whatever the ESCO would be. If you have a question about the CCA in general, you would call the administrator. Joule
Or the
is,
administrator's partner.
yes, so
Because-
technically Joule is subcontracting Raptricity. However, if you look at the numbers of like administrator fees, Joule gets half and Raptricity gets half. That's just a clear, realistically, they're putting a lot into this. And that's why at public outreach meetings, you hear Raptricity. You may hear a little bit about Joule because they're obviously putting work into this. I mean, you guys have seen the proposals, but Raptricity is putting a lot of effort into. And that's part of what is realistically going to bring Raptricity from simply a nonprofit to a much more well-rounded company.
So Raptricity wasn't created just for this, it was something before this?
So Raptricity used to be part of the Rochester People's Climate Coalition.
Right.
I don't want to get my dates
It's all
wrong.
it's all detailed.
It is
here.
it's in the document.
Right. Yep.
At some point, they separated because they wanted to focus more on CCA, and they wanted to not have limitations on what they can do. So rather than one of their employees having to go to a meeting of the Rochester People's Climate Coalition and potentially have people vote on a decision, they can make a decision. It's 4 people. There's 4 partners in the group. It's a faster route to making a decision rather than where they were as part of the Rochester People's Climate Coalition. So that's why that was separated. And that's, again, documented in Juul's proposal.
So I'm going to ask us to move along because my sense today is this is going to be more of a grounding meeting, you know, kind of at a high level. And then from what we discuss here, a little bit more soak time and a little bit more review time. My sense, because of the documents and the details, you know, we want to kind of eat this elephant one bite at a time as we go through. I don't want us to feel rushed. I don't want us to feel pressured. I think we've said that overall to both companies and to any residents in the town as we walk through this. Some people would like to have this done yesterday. I will tell you that the harder people push, that throws, I think, some flags up for myself and I know the town board, and we want to make sure we're doing our proper due diligence, so, overall. So, good discussion, but as I sit here, I'm thinking there's a lot more devil in the detail as we move forward. So why don't we try to get through the Juul kind of as a high-level snapshot. Let's try to do the same thing with GoodEnergy. That might take us to kind of the end of our day. And then let's have a conversation about kind of next meetings so that we can then start to delve down even deeper. So,
Great. So both documents do offer example outreach items. So whether those are pamphlets or postcards, each one also offers the opt-out letter, an example of that has gone out. Both groups would be doing public meetings as part of their outreach. Juul details the cost amount of each of the outreach items, and then it states that there are items that the town would be responsible as arranging public meetings, so public informational meetings, so like having the town hall essentially available for that kind of thing.
And officials.
Likely having
And some-
staff.
Yeah.
Staff there to help facilitate that. That's not very different than if we have any other public information meeting at the town hall.
sure.
A big difference between Juul and GoodEnergy is that Raptricity, as a subcontractor of Juul, would offer the opportunity to have office hours, and that could be in a coffee shop. They put that as an option. That could be at the town hall. That could be in lots of different places. And that's just a service that they are potentially offering. It's not clear if that's a requirement for them to have those office hours or if it's just a service that's offered. GoodEnergy offers to come out, of course, and do the public information meetings. All of that portion is the same. It's a great option to look at the documents that are provided for the outreach as they differ based on GoodEnergy. Most of them are very similar, and Juul, they're different based on the towns. Obviously, pictures will probably be different based on the towns, but one of them appears to be more uniform than the other. Both would have set up a website, do those kinds of things. GoodEnergy emphasizes running the website and updating it and sending out letters to update the residents throughout the entire contract term. So whether we choose to do a 2-year contract or whatever, that entire term, they offer the opportunity to send out letters to residents and similar actions. Those letters would most likely be if there are any rate changes, if there's any new information that you want to send, that we would want them to send out or they would feel is necessary to send out. Both of them meet the minimums for annual reports. Both of them also are required to do that for the Public Service Commission. Both of them have an education plan. They're very similar, but again, the differences are in those outreach materials. which I can't just kind of define by a fact. So I'll leave that to you guys to look into it more. Currently, Raptricity plans to keep the same staffing. They did mention that there's potential to hire more staff long-term if they have the municipality need. So if Raptricity was only working with us, then they probably wouldn't need to hire more staff. If they had every town in Monroe County, they would likely need more staff, and they have the ability and are looking at the options to expand staffing. GoodEnergy currently has 25 staff that are working on CCA projects regularly. They discussed in their proposal that they can attend multiple public meetings at a time, and that other administrators don't have that ability at this time. And that's because of their staffing. Let me look more.
And they have specialized staff too, I think.
They do.
I recall they have a marketing group, they have a design team, they have
That group
social-
being,
GoodEnergy.
okay. I
Yeah.
just, for
Sorry.
those that are catching this, just to make sure that we tie the, you
The
know,
theys,
the
let's get our
detail to the.
pronouns right.
Yep.
So, yeah, GoodEnergy had some very specific skill sets within their employee base.
Yep.
And what I got out of it is where it, tell me if I'm seeing this right, there's Joule, and they have Raptricity with the skills, and they're saying they are carefully monitoring staffing needs and willing to staff up to respond to the needs. And GoodEnergy has the staff and formal departments with skill sets on hand that are serving multiple customers.
Yep, that's the way they're both
Okay.
presenting.
Thank you.
Jules' recommendation is that the town of Penfield seek a fixed rate supply bid, and that we look at a term contract of 2 to 5 years. GoodEnergy is also looking for a fixed rate supply bid. They didn't specify the contract term that we should be looking for at this time, but they did specify that we should consider a range of look-back times. And what that means is when you look at RG&E's price, that obviously that's not a fixed rate, it changes. You could look back 6 months, you could look back 24 months. That's variable, and obviously you're going to get different averages based on how long you look back. They think that GoodEnergy thinks that we should look back at multiple averages, essentially, whether that's 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months, but not a singular set. That
Look back to who?
to RG&E's variable rate. So an example would be in 24 months, RG&E's average of that variable may be $0.08 dollars per kilowatt hour. But if you look back 6 months, maybe it's $0.06. And that will change what we're looking for in these bid items. Because if the main two goals are to be renewable and to save money, depending what time frame you look back at, you may not save money, or you might. So that's something that GoodEnergy specified, having those different month time frames to look back at.
Okay.
Are we allowed to share what their administrative fee is?
I think at this point, I think I hold that,
Okay.
Sarah. I think it probably is okay, but again, as I first stated, giving them the opportunity to redact
Sure.
some information. Again, our goal is to select the best for the town of Penfield, combination renewable and cost, and not to advantage or disadvantage either one of the companies. So I would just say for now, I mean, you've got the documents, you can see what that is, but I think
Yep.
for that I would just, that piece I might hold until what we get back from both Jewel and from GoodEnergy.
Great, so then I'll just say that those are two different numbers.
Since it's not in the front cover of the GoodEnergy book, can you at least give
If you
us?
go all the way to the back, there are two inserts.
Okay.
One is a cost proposal.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Could I ask, or had a general question about the administrative fees? Are both of them absorbed in the contract? They are.
So for administrator fees, when we are given a final bid price, that will be included in whatever the bid price is.
Okay.
Does that make sense, for clarify?
Yeah, there was the way, maybe it was just the way it was worded. In one, it said, oh yeah, okay, it says it will not appear as an additional charge.
But it also does not appear as a separate part
Right.
of the total.
Okay, so they're, even though they're different, they're handled the same way. They're in that
Yes.
contract
Yep.
number. Okay,
So once we choose an administrator, they will put together an RFP for, it can be just one ESCO, it could be multiple ESCOs, it could be ESCOs and then also buying RECs, which are reusable energy certificates. I think that's the right acronym.
yep,
It can be a combination of different things. It does explain in both Jewel and GoodEnergy's how they can come up with that. But whatever the final bid that is chosen, that will include the administrator fee. It will not be separated out between the energy is this much, the administrative fee is this much.
It'll be all up in.
It'll be
they'll all be
one
rolled up
total.
in that energy cost.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
It is something to note that Jewel and Rochtricity, in that proposal, they would split the administrative fee down the middle.
Yep.
So they are both in the same amount.
Okay. Yep. Shows the partnership.
Yep. Both of them have notes in their proposals that there is no guarantee that the CCA will save money.
But didn't know
That's
that.
across the board. That's not something that can be guaranteed because you don't know what the variable rate with RG&E will be.
Right.
It's essentially, you look back and you try to get a rate lower than that average, and ideally you're saving money, but there's no guarantee.
So, and I think, when the village town of Pittsford, Arundecoit, and Brighton went in together and took a look at this, after all the dust settled out, Brighton elected to go with, even though it was going to be a little bit more costly, they elected to continue to move forward with the CCA, whereas Arundecoit and Pittsford, at least the town, elected to back away from that at this point. So, and the main reason in brief conversations with both of those supervisors was, again, they were looking at cost savings, certainly renewable, but they were also looking for cost savings, and for now, they elected to at least just back away. Okay.
A highlight of GoodEnergy is that they have experience in the US, the UK, Canada, Mexico, and have proposals open in Japan. So this is obviously a larger company that has a large amount of experience. They present that they have 90 potentially plus towns, villages, whatever item that they support in New York State.
9-0.
Say that again?
9-0?
9-0, yeah. And they also list those groups on their RFP. Jewel represents 20 plus. And those are also listed in their proposals.
In their proposal.
Are they partnered with Raptricity in all of those, or?
Rochester currently, it looks like there is one that is currently running. It appears that there are more in the process, whether there are contracts or they're working on bids or on proposals for RFPs. I did have a question on Juul's list. It does state, and that's in the appendix.
D as in dog?
It's in C. And there's not a page number, sorry.
It's actually, I think it's actually D, as in dog.
Oh, yeah, actually, it says
Yep.
D.
So
think
it's right in front of the first resume.
No.
Yep.
And that they have some contracts that are awarded by RFP and then some that are not. It's not definitive in that sheet how the other contracts have been awarded. Whether that's the way that Penfield chooses an engineering firm to do surveying, or is it something else? I don't know because the information's not there. And that's not to say that we can't go back to them and ask, and that's also not to say that maybe it's not a big deal. I don't know. But that's something I'm presenting to you as maybe other people here have an idea or a better understanding than I do. Or maybe that is a question that we want to go back to them, or maybe not.
Okay. All right.
So those are kind of my highlights. Obviously, there's a ton more in these proposals.
It really is.
I could probably talk to you for days at this point, having gone through them as much as I have. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to take down questions that we want to get more information on. But I'd like
And
to
I think
open it up to everyone
that's the
to
key,
vote
that's
more.
a key item for us to talk about, is if there is some specific information that we need, Sarah and Mark have taken the lead to reach out. Now, I will say, to the best of my knowledge, we've only reached out to one company thus far. We did reach out to Juul. We asked them, per discussion that we had with our town attorney, and that is that Juul had signed off in the document as it related to disclosure, non-collusion, ethics, and so Raptricity did not. We reviewed that with Mr. Horowitz, and Mr. Horowitz asked us to go back and actually get that sign off from Raptricity as well. So Sarah has done that on behalf of us and town attorney to get that information. I would expect that they would have that turned around in a relatively short period of time.
We're expecting to get it tomorrow if it hasn't arrived today during this meeting.
Okay, so to the best of my knowledge, that has been, thus far, that has been, other than to acknowledge with both that we did receive their documents. They did come in ahead of the time, 11 o'clock on the 20th. We verified all of that information with them, but I think, again, to the best of my knowledge, the only other information that has been requested thus far was that piece with Juul, just to document the Raptricity component and do that to satisfy Town Attorney Horowitz. So as I started to say, let's kind of open it up for some further general discussions. And Sarah has been kind enough to try to either answer those questions or go back and ferret out some of that. But as we go through and we continue to review these documents, guys, if there aren't any specific questions that we just think that there is a hole that we need information, we can go out and ask for that. And that will hold true for Juul or GoodEnergy. So if Juul has got information here and GoodEnergy doesn't, or vice versa, let's get that properly documented. And then if there are some questions that come up again, either from the committee or from residents that want to submit some questions that similar to what we did with the RFP, we'll present questions the same, to Juul and GoodEnergy. So they're seeing the same questions, and then they have the opportunity to offer up input and comments. if in fact it applies to both. Because again, our intent here is to make sure no one is advantaged or disadvantaged as we go through this review. So with that, I would ask committee, any additional thoughts? I know I see yellow tabs, I see paper clips, I see highlighted pages, in the documents, and I want to thank you again for, taking your time to take a look at this and ferret it out, ask questions and whatever, because again, at some point, the town board is looking for input from us to help them review and ultimately make a final decision as to path forward for this, so.
Okay, so Sarah, do you have handy some of the criteria that we said we would use in evaluating these?
I truthfully did not bring the RFP with me.
Okay.
I can tell you that they have met all of the definitive requirements. I apologize for not bringing that.
Okay.
to this
I just
meeting.
know that there was a certain thing where we said, this is worth 10 points, this is worth,
Yep, I did
Okay.
not bring that, sorry.
and I didn't think to actually look it up till I got
Yep.
here. It's probably available, but. And I have another one. So I noticed that some of GoodEnergy's attachments are actually footnoted for a different location. Are those actually intended for the Penfield book, or were those, do you know if those are examples that they attached? Like attachment A, the implementation plan, actually says Town of Hempstead at the bottom.
Yep, so I believe those are examples, and in general, it was noted that there were some, it looked like fill and replace parts of GoodEnergy that might have had a mistake or two.
I think that's true for both documents. I found some in both places.
But I do believe that's essentially an example document. Similar to, for Jewel, they had a footnote that was a link, and if you went to the link, it was their implementation plan, which is a master implementation plan,
Okay.
rather than specific to the town of Penfield.
Yep.
My understanding is that we would have one specific to us if we choose whichever entity as an administrator.
Yeah, yeah. Other initial thoughts or comments? I know that these last couple of weeks have been an opportunity to look, have a little bit of soak time, and just start to understand this. I know that, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but next week is Christmas week, which I don't know what happened. I guess I'll just tag that to COVID, because we've tagged so many other things to COVID, but the fact that reality is really sinking into me. So I know that next week is a short week and the following week are short weeks. And will give us, not that everybody's sitting around with nothing to do, but it'll give us a little bit more opportunity to continue to do our deeper dive on this overall.
Tony, are you recommending that we curl up in front of the Christmas tree and
Well-
really delve into these RFPs?
I think
Pour some eggnog
I think
and-
there are some folks that might do that, Matt.
I promise you, this has seen my living room.
Having two little under the age of 3,
4.
under the age of 4, my guess is that you don't have a lot of curl time.
No.
Your curl time is out of the house.
That's right, yes.
And back in
Curl
the
time
office
has
when you
kids
can.
piled on him while he's
yes.
curling.
Yes, this was reviewed in my office.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was figuring is that getting back to the office and having some of that time, that quiet time to do work, Bob, anything here end jump out that to at least get on the table to talk about, or at least have some initial conversations on?
In one of the proposals, they talk about additional programs for customers and a green fund. I'm just wondering between the two companies if there's other programs incentives, things that would be available to residents that go beyond the CCA or the distributed generation program?
So GoodEnergy did speak in their, or write in theirs, about what potential uses the sustainability fund would have, whether that is beautifying a park or putting in electric gas, not electric gas, but electric charging stations. They did detail some of that. They did also discuss the potential of moving forward with other renewable energies in theirs. Jewel did touch upon the sustainability fund as well. They focused more on community solar.
Okay.
Realistically, if the town wanted to move forward with community solar CDG, that is where the sustainability fund would come from. And I would expect, based on both of these companies, that there are plenty of options for using that sustainability fund. Both of them also discussed that moving forward with CCA opens an opportunity to work with NYSERDA and get grants. And that can be combined with a sustainability fund, or you can use that separately for a different project than the sustainability fund. Obviously, grants have more limitations than a sustainability fund, so that's something to consider.
Okay, so it sounds like both,
Yep.
that's pretty much the same between the two.
The very big difference was GoodEnergy spoke on more options for renewable energy
Okay,
that can be implemented in the area. A big push for GoodEnergy was the potential for rooftop solar in the area, specifically in the city of Rochester. That would be a huge push for them, just because that's the area, that's the part of this area that they feel would be the most beneficial and sustainable financially as well.
And I think also easiest.
Yes, easiest. GoodEnergy does have a map, which is available on the NYSERDA website, that shows what areas of Monroe County would be the easiest to tie into with large solar farms or similar. And the city of Rochester is the shining point. There is a location within Penfield that stands out on that map. As someone in the engineering department, that's been looked at by developers, and it's not the easiest parcel to develop.
Got it.
It doesn't have wetland, but it's wooded, and most of it's surrounded by houses. And it's small.
Okay, all right. So I guess this brings us to kind of our next steps. Where do we see this going by way of, additional get-togethers? And again, I started to tee it up to say next week and the week after are short weeks. And of course, folks do have other things that they're involved with families, and we respect that, and folks trying to figure out and maneuver their way through this unusual holiday time when we got everybody telling us to stay home, our own family group, not go out, and all those types of things. So we're all learning a little bit together this year what that looks like, at a time when, quite honestly, we're starting to see our numbers go up pretty substantially, at least in Monroe County. And listening to the governor today, unfortunately, the Finger Lakes region is the highest region across New York State by way of numbers and our current rates. So we got a little bit of a target on our backs here as to what does that look like over these next couple weeks as we get into Hanukkah and Christmas and Kwanzaa and New Year's and all of that, and then how does that manifest itself out into January, early February? So lot of dynamics going on, but I think it's important for us to maybe identify what might be a good date with calendars that we might be able to circle back, give us another couple of weeks for some review time and what have you, and then get back together. And I'd like to concentrate maybe next time on, are there any specific questions that we might have for either one or both? So as we're comparing these, we see Jewel has listed this, and we don't see it necessarily that detailed in GoodEnergy or vice versa. Is it an opportunity for us to ask for some additional information? And then is there some additional information that we are looking to ask both of them the same type of question, and to get that out there? Then our hopes also is then to get the appropriate redacted versions in from the two respective companies that we can put on the website, so folks can start to review that, minus the, what I'll call the numbers, the business confidential numbers type of thing. But as I take a look at it, what are we comfortable with by way of our next get together, assuming that Wednesday, which historically has been our best time with folks' schedules for the most part, bar some work we're doing on the new website that a couple of folks here have been spending an unusually high amount of time on that. Thank you, Sabrina and Phyllis. But if we take a look at our calendars for the next handful of Wednesdays, any one of them jump out as being something that would give us sufficient amount of time to do a little bit more review and kind of formalize some information and plans by way of questions and things.
I can tell you right now, I can't do January 6th, so.
Okay.
I mean, would we
Yeah, we
consider
don't.
December 30th at all, just because it's, okay,
No.
I'm off.
okay, it's just an odd, you
Yep,
know, like
no,
in the
but
middle
we
of
got that fifth-
nowhere.
we got
I'm
that
not
fifth-
working, but.
Yeah, we got that fifth Wednesday, but I do know that folks do,
Yeah.
yeah.
I also know
So,
I have time.
so what does January
Yep.
13th look like on folks' calendars?
It's good by me.
Yeah, that works.
Yes.
So why don't we say our next get-together is the 13th at 4 o'clock here. We have 7 of us with Mark here. We have 8 of us, so we're still under the number. If something happens to change, that number goes from 10 to 5 because our numbers have gone up, then we'll cross that bridge and figure out how we do that. It'll probably include a combination of some folks here and some folks via Zoom, but we can, keep an eye on that. And then on the 13th, why don't we plan on coming, if we've got any specific questions to try to get those ferreted out, be prepared to ask those questions and what have you, and get those back to the respective. So let me take a moment and I did, as I said in the beginning, opening remarks, I did put together kind of a straw man draft copy. Thank you, Sabrina, thank you. And that is that, we received RFPs on the 20th of November, just before the holiday. We said that we were going to take, or I'm stating this, so you haven't had the benefit of seeing this. Sarah and Mark have seen this, but I wanted to bring it here for discussion. So I was proposing, from the 20th to the 29th, 20th of November, 29th of January, that gives the EEAC an opportunity to review, request clarification if needed, and prepare any thoughts that we might have to share with the town board. Then I was next proposing that on February 10th to provide some initial thoughts to the town board that we have ferreted out by, by way of some comparisons. And then to give the town board the opportunity from the 10th of February to the 24th of February, being the next work session, the 24th, to take a look, request clarification, ask for additional information, and what have you. And then from there, what I was suggesting is that, would the town board be prepared to take the next step of either looking to pass a resolution? Do they want to do an information meeting? What it is that they might want to do. So that was kind of a tentative, with a caveat that this is an approximate timeline, and we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence, not only from an administrative standpoint but also a legal standpoint, for all the best interest of all of our residents overall. So that's kind of I can kind of push this out for folks to look at, think about, and then offer up any thoughts. I haven't shared it with the town board. I was going to do that this evening. I was going to push that to them so that they had that as kind of a rough order of magnitude for that. So I will look to push that out to the committee. But does anything jump out as like a, oh no, or holy mackerel, or anything like that?
Nothing alarming, just given that time frame, there's a good chance that public outreach is still going to be very limited in terms of a public information meeting.
Yep.
And I noticed too in the presentations, one company was up to date and referenced COVID and how they've adapted for their public outreach and education. I don't know that the other one referenced it, but I think through their behavior, they've locally, they've gone to Zoom for meetings. So there's a chance that we could get into a public outreach line item that overlaps with COVID restrictions still.
Yep.
Just to be mindful of that.
No, I think that's a good point, Phyllis, and certainly we're going to be somewhat controlled and dictated by the governor's executive orders that come out. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on that. All I was attempting to do was to give some rough order of magnitude of a framework. Sure. I think our goal is to advance this along once we have vetted things out properly. But I don't think, in fairness to both GoodEnergy and Jewel, I don't think we want to drag this out for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, unless all of a sudden we have such a resurgence of COVID that everything gets shut down and we really get our hands tied. But until anything like that happens, trying to lay out a reasonable timeline seems to be like the best thing to do overall. So yeah.
Could you repeat that last date that was in your schedule?
Yes.
Sorry.
So what I was indicating, Sarah, is that so that if we were able to get to the board on the 10th of February, between the 10th and the 24th, that would be kind of soak time for the board to come back with any questions, comments, and that we would revisit it on the 24th work session. Then after that, what's the board's next step? Are they ready to make a commitment to an administrator? Do they feel that they need to have a public information meeting, whether that be live, Zoom, or some combination thereof? And I really need to have the board kind of give us some feedback as to their direction as to how they would like to do that. I mean, if you think about any proposals that we get, typically we run it through the work session. The board then directs myself and staff to prepare a resolution, and we adopt a resolution. That's what happens with most, if not all, of our proposals. Obviously, this is a little bit bigger, a little bit broader, and does the board want or feel a need to do additional outreach by way of public information meeting for sharing more information or crafting more information out to the general public for their information review. And again, I think all along we've said that you know, probably the biggest thing we didn't like about this program is it's an opt-out program. Everybody is forced in when we make that decision. Everybody is kind of forced into that decision, and then if they don't like it, they don't want it, they have to opt out. As we go into this, making sure that folks at least at a high level just understand some of the dynamics of that overall. And again, I know, I don't want to speak for the board, but I know the board is sensitive to the fact that, you know, getting everybody herded in and say, there you're in, and then finding out they've got to go through some process to get out. Again, just making sure people understand those dynamics and can understand what they have to do if for some reason they don't like or want to be in the program. So,
That makes sense, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, anything else for tonight? So my action items, you know, I'll just reconfirm that we'll get together next on the 13th. I'll send this draft schedule out so you have that. And then the only other thing I just want to mention, again, the confidentiality and fairness to both of these organizations, making sure that neither one are advantaged or disadvantaged as we go through. All right, thank you for your time, folks. It's approximately 5:11, so I'll declare this work session closed. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all of you, and look forward to seeing you in the new year on the 13th. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Nice
thank
job.
you.
And you
And
can
Sarah,
keep-
thank you for